So this is my, I've spoken lots of NOGs, from SGNOGs to NZ-NOGs, KH-NOGs, lots of NOGs. This is my first Singapore NOG one, so I hope you find this interesting. So I'm here to talk about elastic fabrics. As many people in the room know what an elastic fabric is or have heard about them yet? Not you. You work for me. Okay. So this is an interesting revolution that's coming, and I want to have a bit of a chat about it and let you know what you're in for very, very soon. It's a very big shift in networking. So I'm going to have to look up here. So just a bit about me. I'm the founder and chief architect of Intelligo. I'm also a futurist. I like to focus on modern technology and its impact on people and business. We've got customers from ISPs, enterprises, national icons like things like Sydney Harbour Bridge. We look after all those kind of infrastructure, anti-terrorism systems, access controls. All that sits on top of networking and IP, cameras and so on. Our hotels, unis, governments. We've built over 300 ISPs, small, medium, mostly, vertically focused, a lot of them, targeting very specific markets. Specialise in taking service provider thinking to enterprises, just doing things quite differently, especially in Australia where there's a very rich wholesale market, and we're able to use very interesting technologies like LNSs and BNGs as a corporate, building their own sort of internal ISPs and those kinds of things. I run a team of elastic engineers, so all across the region, Asian region, head office in Cambodia at the moment, and with Australia as well. So I'm a former director of Internet Society Australia and a former APNIC policy chair, and I love the APNIC region, and that's why my company is very much focused on Asia. So why am I talking about this today? So I've been talking about elastic fabrics since about 2013. When Megaport was launched in Australia. Has anyone here heard much about Megaport yet? Okay, cool. You will. So I've been consulting with enterprises and ISPs about the use cases for elastic fabrics, and developing and building some models for layer 2 service providers. I know you guys are a lot of engineering here. I'm assuming how many people are like technical and engineering? Big part of the room. Okay. And in December 2014, I was asked to actually build an elastic fabric for NextDC, which is a very big data center company in Australia, and it's called Axon VX. So although a lot of my talk today is actually about Megaport, they're almost kind of competitor, but I know the owners of Megaport and the staff, and I actually love those guys, and what they've done is actually groundbreaking as a sort of a kind of Australian invention, productization that is starting to take over the world and especially starting in this region. So what is an elastic fabric? An elastic fabric is removing one of the last barriers of elastic IT. So we know, and it's a revolution in connectivity and telecommunications. Today, we are still used to going and buying capacity. If you want, say in Singapore, a link between 2 data centers and you want dark fiber, or a gig or 10 gig of traffic, you have to go and order it. It takes weeks to install, and in Singapore, it costs a lot of money. Especially dark fiber in this city. If you want a pair which can run 960 gig of traffic over, if you're doing DWDM, it's a lot of money. So elastic fabrics are changing all that. They're going to upset the carriers quite significantly, like they are doing in Australia right now. It's a predictable eventuality. Everything is becoming gourmet in our world. Started with the iTunes. I want to buy one song, not the album. Then it's I want to buy only this, and the freemium model sort of pushed that along. I get my free 2 gig on Dropbox. And now, then the rise of the cloud revolution. I want to pay by the hour. I don't want to have a massive amount of capital expenditures and have a lot of equipment sitting there 24 hours a day, but actually only being used at full capacity part of the time. The network and the infrastructure, especially the layer 1, layer 2 side, is about to change. At the moment, the carriers are still happily sitting on their 2-3 year contracts, earning a lot of money. And as you'll see from this, what's happening is going to make their lives very, very difficult. So, elastic fabrics are characterized by on-demand provisioning, automation, fast, We're talking about bringing up VLANs across the city, whether it's Sydney or Singapore or Hong Kong or any other city that Megaport or an Elastic Fabric is installed in. We're talking 60 seconds. Not 6 weeks, not 5 weeks, not even 2 days. We're talking a VLAN layer 2 part in 60 seconds at extreme high speeds. Cheap go as your pricing. I'll talk a bit about the pricing as an example later. No, and this is the thing that the carriers hate. No or very short contracts. Megaport has no contracts. Axon has no contracts. A few of the others that are starting to think about it, everyone's starting at a baseline, no contracts. You want it for 1 day, 5 gig across the city for $20? That's the price. Extreme speed. Most of them are starting at minimum 10 gig buy-in and up to 100 gig interfaces. The interesting thing about Elastic Fabrics is they don't care what speed you use. To them, you are just a VLAN. If you want to spin that VLAN up as 1 meg or 8 gig, it's the same price. Yeah, that's another thing that upsets the carriers. It's a marketplace. So think of it kind of like the internet, but at pure layer 2. It's an enterprise service delivery revolution, and I'll explain why in a minute. So for the technical people here, it's just a layer 2-ish network from a customer perspective, definitely. It's more LAN, less WAN. Now what I mean by that is what's really the definition. The old definition of LAN was a local area network because of the speeds, and WANs were over DSL and other remote POPs. But when you can do 5 gig or 1 gig or 10 gig across town, is it really a WAN anymore? That's an interesting question of what the definition of Elastic Fabrics are. Pure layer 2. There is no, the current suite of Elastic Fabric providers do no layer 3. This is a negotiated VLAN between 2 people. And that can be between 2 customers or between suppliers and so forth. It's just VLANs and trunking. This is nothing new here. It's just a very, very different way of doing it. High speeds, as I said, customers are connecting at 40 gig, 10 gig, and we're not talking just service providers here. These are the speeds that service providers used to connect at, not your businesses. So in Australia, lots of businesses are jumping on Megaport, Axon, and all these other people. Minimum 10 gig. I was revisioning some circuits last week. There was quite a few circuits of 40 gigs interfaces. QSFPs now are almost becoming the baseline. You know? In fact, the Axon infrastructure has no 10 gig ports on it. Everything I built, only 40 gig, and we break them out using QSFP breakout MTP cables or whatever it is to 10 gigs, giving me 100 10 gig ports per single 1RU switch. Because 10 gig, that's so yesterday. It's an overlay transport technology. It's really kind of, there are different ways. Now I've got the reason I've got a few different things about the technology, when I mentioned MPLS, VPLS, OpenFlow, VXLAN, while the outcome most of the time is the same, so for example, Megaport and Axon, almost the same sort of outcome, completely different technology. I designed Axon entirely around VXLAN. It's a pure layer 3 network with layer 3 redundancy, multiple, triple, quadruple paths between equipment at extreme high speeds, 160 gig between devices, and there's just no layer 2 paths, no layer 2 problems, and that's the way we move traffic around. VXLAN, I don't know if there's very, very few people in Australia using VXLAN for actually network transport, but it is amazing. And it's, again, I guess it was invented for the server guys, but now the network guys are co-opting it back, and it is working absolutely fantastically. A little bit of vendor incompatibility and them finally developing it. Building Axon was a challenge. You know, Arista, Juniper, Brocade, Cisco, everyone's got their slight tweaks, but easy to make it work. So that was my design philosophy, is the way I've designed is VXLAN, but there's many ways you can do it. You don't have to do it the same way, but essentially it's the same net effect. it's creating on-demand VLANs layer 2 between 2 points. So here's a couple of the types of elastic fabrics that are around at the moment. So you've got public, neutral ones. Anyone can join. They're in multiple data centers. So Megaport is in, I've got a picture of the map. They're in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and New Zealand, and they've just, I believe they've just turned on in Singapore. And there are, I believe, in 4 of the data centers, and I think they're just in the middle of spinning up in Hong Kong as well. They're also just in the middle of opening their US West Coast office, I think, and they're planning for lots of cities across the US and Europe. And I don't know if many people know of the term Telstra Pen. Pen was the, Telstra just recently bought PacNet. So they took over PacNet's PacNet-enabled network, their SDN. So while Megaport pretty much uses like MPLS, Axon uses VXLAN, Pen uses pure SDN, same outcome. You know, IX Australia is a classic sort of peering exchange that has started to do virtual cross connects. Now Equinix is kind of a similar one. They're what I fall under the kind of private specialist. They're not really neutral, not a lot there in Australia. I'm interested to know how much there is on the Equinix Cloud Exchange, but it's basically kind of the same thing. Layer 2, on demand, very quickly, very cheaply, at very high speeds. So where are they at the moment? And this is going to be interesting for you guys who don't really know what elastic fabrics are, because they're here. Megaport, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, New Zealand. You'll see there, so they're in Singapore, they've got KL planned, they're in Hong Kong spinning up, they've got Japan planned, and that's what I mean. This is not a serious, this is not a toy. This is a serious revolution in the way that networks are being delivered. So we're taking our elastic compute to the elastic network and on demand, and it's just a very new way of doing things. Pen, that's where they already are. They're already in, I think, 16 countries on demand between all those locations. Already in Asia, Singapore. Equinix, Cloud Exchange, also in Singapore, Sydney, Melbourne, Japan, and so on. You've already got in this city alone, just by the 3 here, 3 elastic fabrics. It's just one of those things that's amazing tech that people haven't really capitalized on yet. PacNet's kind of a corporate network, really mostly for their own purposes, although you can jump on it. So that's why I call it kind of a private elastic fabric. Equinix is kind of limited. They only put things really in their data centers. So that's where Megaport is very different, is they go into every DC. They are DC neutral. They don't care, they're carry neutral, DC neutral. And once they're in all those DCs, they spin up massive capacity between all of them. And that's just very, very different, where Equinix doesn't seem to want to do that, and Pen generally goes into their own one, although in Australia, the interconnected fabrics are starting. So Pen in Australia has joined Megaport and Axon. So that's the next starting revolution into fabrics, which is very, very interesting. So this is, now I'm talking about Australia because it's just starting up here. An elastic fabric is nothing without its marketplace and its content. So in Australia, these are the sort of things that are already being purchased in large scale on elastic fabrics. You're talking direct access, so Amazon, Azure, and in here in Singapore, Google is on all the fabrics. So you can do direct cross connects. I'm pretty sure Azure Express Route, you're rather doing your own direct cable on demand straight over this. ISP infrastructure, BNG, routing, peering, physical infrastructure. People are multi-tenanting things and putting appliances onto them. Storage providers, transit. One of the common things you'll see in SGNOG is who can deliver me 500 megabits of transit over Megaport. You no longer have to be in the DC where that guy is. And if he's got the capacity, 60 seconds after you've got your VLAN to him at 5 gig, he could probably have you transit. It's that fast. Tails. I'm not sure of the wholesale market in Singapore, but the wholesale market in Australia is amazing. There is dozens of people you can go and buy a lot of circuits from NBN, 5O detail. Now you are handed those things as layer 2, which means you can take those as a trunk over Megaport and other fabrics and deliver them. So in Australia, I've got an ISP in Equinix in Sydney, and one of the wholesale providers that they buy from, NBN Level Speeds, is in Brisbane, Sydney Global Switch, and Melbourne. I take all of that wholesale capacity all over Megaport back to Equinix in Sydney, and it just runs perfectly. Voice, lots of people are doing voice. DDoS, protection, clean feed, Mic 121, they'll take you in one VLAN, your gigs of traffic you're clean feeding, and spit it back at you at another VLAN. Virtual appliances, a lot of things happening there, and hosted layer 2 or layer 3 environments. That's one of the things I've been waiting for, and that because my company is building a product in Australia called Elastic ISP, an ISP with no hardware, taking tails from wholesale providers, using hosted infrastructure from some people, transit and other facilities, building an entire ISP with no hardware. And we're launching that in a month or so. I don't know if that's kind of the market that hits Asia, but I'm very interested, especially my Asian guys are interested in what we can spin up over here. So what's coming? Especially enterprise targeted things, CapEx intensive, multi-tenantable solutions. Anything that can do VLANs, you can just plug into these fabrics. One of the examples I often use is, because CapEx, you want to go buy a Cisco telepresence, costs $50,000, that's a lot of money up front. Imagine if you could go to a guy who's just got a Cisco telepresence plugged into this fabric, and it's multi-tenantable, and you just bring up a VLAN over to him, and all you've got in your office is a 4K TV, a camera, and a microphone, and you buy time on that. You buy hours on that, instead of paying the money to have it sitting there. Just buy it when you need it. How many video conferencing systems do you guys see in all your offices sitting there doing nothing? So why pay for it? Why not talk to someone, or why not, if you've got it, sell it? That's what Amazon did. They built a network for themselves, and they realized they had an amazing amount of compute and started selling it. There's no reason. Most of the people in this room probably have layer 2 infrastructure that they could sell to other people over these kind of fabrics. Enterprise cloud, those guys are starting to get on. Google Compute's about to hit Australia, SoftLayer's already there, Rackspace, VMware vCloud's just hit. All of these people are going to be able to start delivering over Elastic Fabrics very soon. You're going to see a lot of servers disappearing out of the offices. And just hybrid cloud is massive. I've got a customer in Sydney that has 1,200 servers in Amazon, and he has dual cross connects through Amazon Direct Connect, and he's just got dark fiber to his office, and there's almost no servers left in the office now. And it's also completely elastic. 1,200 servers at midday, 200 servers at midnight. Hosted desktops, that same customer is actually trialing, I think, 75 Amazon workspaces at the moment. You know, and so that people whose desktops are not even in the office. They're just a little display device like a Chromebox or something like that, and a screen. And a lot of the other things are starting to happen. As soon as Microsoft gets its act together, because apparently their Azure platform is getting good, the minute they start licensing Windows 7, Windows 10 as to be allowed to be virtualized, they actually have to sell it to everybody else. And that's going to do a new revolution. Apple's apparently working on something similar, which is really a licensable thing. Hosted embedded systems, POS, already starting to happen in Australia, where you've just got a device at a shop and decent bandwidth to be able to get to the actual remote screen. So what does it cost? Now this is the scary part for anyone who actually makes too much money out of this at the moment. Megaport set the standard, it's pretty cheap. So your basic fee of about this is Australian fee pricing. Singapore probably similar, but I can't be sure about that. You can talk to the Megaport guy here, Abramo, up the back there, later on. But it took me $500 a month for a 10 gig connection, free MPLA peering, right? 40 gig and 100 gig options. VXCs are connection price and speed agnostic. Initiator pays. So if you're a supplier and have something that you've got 500 people creating VLANs to you, it's free. You're still paying your base $500 fee. Or unless it's a 40 gig or 100 gig port, you probably pay a bit more. So in Australia, I don't know that we're a little bit different. We have metro in campuses, Megaport's still finalising here. So we pay $200 a month, speed agnostic. If I want to run it up as 1 meg or 9 gig on my 10 gig connection, it's $200 a month. Or in campus, which means that DCs are pretty close together. That's the sort of pricing that we're talking about here. How much would a 9 gig connection cross even from between 2 data centers in Singapore? 20 bucks a day? I don't think so. In Australia, we do intercap. I'm not sure that's relevant in Singapore on how they will do things, but they actually do intercap, and it's very, very cheap and on demand. And even Australia to New Zealand for $10 a meg, on demand, no contracts. That's the best thing about this, no contracts at all. So quickly, what does it look like? It looks like spaghetti. You've got a layer 2 fabric. The job of the elastic fabric provider is to get your layer 2 from one side to the other. They buy massive capacity. We're talking dark fiber and terabits of capacity for you to move whatever you want around. You can do anything you want, anywhere to anywhere, and that's how it's done, on demand. You agree on some, I was going to do a quick demo, but I think we're running out of time, are we?
How long the
demo will be like a couple of seconds.
okay,
Yeah, Lies. This is actually a live page. Go projector. I don't think the projector wants to do it. All right. I can, anyone's really interested, I can show you outside. The projector doesn't really want to do it. Okay. Now, why you need to care? Very quickly. If you're not planning to sell, or if you don't know about it, now you're really interested in that and you weren't planning to sell because you didn't know about it, you need to start thinking about it. It's a global revolution. 16 countries. 16 countries. Equinix, I think more. Megaport, on the way, everywhere, going everywhere. And there will be others to follow. Local players will start to rise. I'm sure someone will go, this is interesting. They'll take time. The technology, the skills to skill up. And some people, to be honest, I don't know if I mentioned it anywhere, but if carriers try to do that, most people aren't going to go. If a Telstra in Australia tried to build one, we consider that private. It's like having neutral data centers. Most the successful elastic fabrics are going to be neutral elastic fabrics that anyone can get on. So ecosystems are critical. You've got to have a lot of people on them. Migration. People can come to you and leave you very quickly, give them reasons to stay. Hardware vendors are rushing to release all their virtualized equipment. Cisco's currently doing 41 different appliances at the moment. Kevin Block, the CTO, told me the other day. Everything they possibly can, they're virtualizing to put on Azure, Cisco Intercloud, and AWS and VMware and everything else like that. All virtual ASRs, I just noticed on AWS yesterday actually, the VASA is finally there. You know, forget hardware, especially in Asia where it might be harder to get hardware, who cares anymore, it's all on demand. You can ignore it, but a lot of people are thinking about it, especially in Australia. Enterprises, companies are jumping on like crazy and starting to use it, buying their own products directly. This is not a carrier thing. This is not like just the peering networks. This is kind of like a peering network that every company has decided to jump onto, because why wouldn't they? If everybody's there and you just get your one little dark fiber connection into it somehow, you're on. You can buy anything you want on demand. Your own transit directly from 10 different people. It does not matter. Voice services, everything. Why not? It's actually easy. It's layer 2. Pretty sure if you are here, you probably know what that is and how to configure a VLAN, which means you're already done. How you need to change to live with this. Get over the way you currently do business. I've been in Asia, I was in Cambodia last week, it's killing me. You know, it took me 4 minutes to find the TV that I wanted and an hour and a half to buy it. You know, it's driving me up the wall. Paperwork and the way some things are done in Asia and Australia It's just so slow. Telstra in Australia takes 6 weeks to do legal paperwork. This is just ridiculous. You know, and even they say it's ridiculous. They go, we don't know how we got into this situation. We need to make this faster. You know, the speed of provisioning, orchestrate. This is the king of everything at the moment. That's why SDN is going to destroy a lot of people. You know, you take 6 weeks to bring up a service, and people like, you know, a lot of these providers and some of the carriers in the US and Japan especially are orchestrating like crazy. You know, push a button, it's up. In Australia, all the carriers are now understanding, they're all jumping onto the fabrics. Contract terms. Sorry, I don't care if you've got shareholders or not, get over them. No one, if you come in with a 1-2 year contract term, get over it. People want your stuff for a day. People want it for a week, a month. If it's good and well priced well, they will not leave. But be prepared for them to leave. Value add. The tail is dying as a primary of revenue. We all know about the OTT. You're losing so much money to Netflix and all the others that they're just eroding and eroding, and there's going to be a lot more of streaming video on demand and all these things. Try to figure out how to value add, and Elastic Fabric is the way to do it. Sorry. You need to watch how people buy. Watch what the 12-year-olds do. They're the ones that have led this revolution of buy only what you need. Don't think you're too big to fail. Look at Microsoft at the moment. Apple is about the size of Google and Microsoft combined. You know, companies overnight, Nokia, Motorola, they barely even do what they did. You know, don't think you're too big to fail. If this revolution comes and takes half your in-ground transmission business overnight, and just wait till someone has some undersea cable capacity and decides to do inter-country fabrics. You know, you want to bring up between Sydney and between Singapore and Hong Kong, 10 gig for a day or an hour. That's not far away. Why the hell not? So this is the last slide. The next 18 months, more elastic fabrics on demand and fast, more than 100 gig in speeds. There's no reason we actually can't do it at the moment. I can do quad 40 gig ports, port channel. Who cares? You know, that's 160 gig. I can deliver that now. No hassles and cheap. Vertically focused fabrics, people that target specific areas or specific customers. And imagine broadcast media, someone moving, you know, 4K or that kind of transmission around in those kind of fabrics. Interconnected fabrics, starting to talk to each other now. Marketplace maturity, hundreds, just like the AWS marketplace, hundreds of images. There'll be hundreds of people. There's already literally hundreds in Australia. A lot more wholesale product offerings will be popping on. Anyone that's got anything that they can sell wholesale, let the people who sell it, just provide it and deliver it as layer 2. Why not? And customer awareness is significant in Australia already. 6 to 12 months, it's going to be even bigger in Asia. They'll be joining en masse in the next 12 months. They'll be getting on and buying, just like the evolution of the internet itself. People saw the opportunities and what you could do with it, and they joined. How different is this when you're suddenly on it buying gigs across cities for so little dollars? I don't know if we've got time for questions or not.
This is an interesting topic. Is there any questions from the audience?
I was wondering, what are the failure scenarios, right? If everyone jumps on this shared fabric, eventually there's going to be like a layer 2 broadcast storm or something. What are the safeguards to ensure?
Well, as I said, with one of the interesting things is the order is nearly most of the elastic fabrics are designed with, or especially the ones that I just designed in Australia, is layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 2. So there is no, especially in that scenario, there is no broadcast problems. So in Axon, we take a VLAN at your trunk port. I either renumber it, so I can actually let you choose your numbering or not. The VLAN, so I translate that into, so you give me 100, I turn it into 2000. Then I turn that 2000 into VNI, VXLAN. Not sure many people know how to do that here yet. You know, 2.3 million. Throw that layer 3 across the network. So at that point, it's an encapsulated kind of like a grid tunnel, using layer 3 to get to the other side of the network, wherever that might be. There is no collisions, there's no anything. Our transmission paths between devices and between data centers, we are talking in the hundreds of gigs, if not terabytes of traffic. Dark fiber, I heard there was an amazing talk this morning about DWDM, like a pair, 960 gig. The boxes are only 8 grand. Really, is it that hard to push nearly a terabyte of data around these days? That's how you deal with, there's no collisions, there's no things like that. It's all about unique. That's one of the best things. For those who don't use VXLAN yet, it is a dream come true. I think it's 4.3 billion unique numbers, rather than this 4,000 VLANs trying to push them around the network. And it gives us the ability to do whatever we want around the network without conflict. And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to run out of 4.3 billion VNIs in a very short period of time.
Hi, Skeeve. I just wanted to ask, how are you marketing it? So you said that if you have your own resources and you're wanting to open it up to other organizations or companies that may want to tap into it or buy it from you, how do you market that? Is there an exchange?
Well, that's the interesting thing. One of the early things that I was talking to Megaport about, and Axon, and the advice I've actually given to quite a few others, is stop selling things. The job of Ivro here is not to sell anything, it's for him to create a community, to get you all on. Now, the very interesting thing about Megaport, Axon, similar, every customer is actually a supplier. You both just have trunk ports with VLANs. You can create one to your neighbor or to someone else. You can buy, you can sell. Everybody is actually the same. So once you're on, it's really a new delivery mechanism for anyone else that's on, just like the internet. You don't go and pay the internet money, you pay who you're buying it off. You pay Dropbox, Evernote, et cetera, for the service. This is the same kind of thing. This is just the glue in the middle that lets you do things on demand and very fast. Megaport themselves just want to get more people on. When they have hundreds of people on and you look at the list of the things that you can buy as a service provider or as a corporate, or I'm not sure of the speeds of home services, because I would love to see that revolution where a home user could get on an actual fabric like this because they've got like a 10 gig service at home and just buy what they need. Imagine buying a 1 gig for an hour to PlayStation 7 game network, doing things like that. This is all so easy and possible. So it's really about you going, I've got this new awesome, amazing layer 2 service, you can come here and get it. It's just one of the ways. You can directly, there's nothing stopping you physically cabling. This just kind of upsets the DCs a little bit because you buy one connection inside a data center with your 10 or 40 gig, you create lots of cross connects, virtual cross connects. You're just not putting lots of cables in anymore and burning lots of ports. And it's on demand. In Australia, some of the DCs want 12 months contract on their physical cross connect. I don't understand that. As an install, takes 3 days, things like that. This one is on demand. So when you get that, it just makes you can buy access to a lot of services. So how you market those services, whatever it might be, you're in. If you can plug it into this layer 2 fabric and sell access to it, it's how you take that to market. They're just your new glue to get there.
Okay, thank you. Let's have the last questions. The last question turns out to be 2 sub-questions. So
2 sub-questions, okay.
Question A is,
someone remind me to keep track of A and B.
how much oversubscription are you running? Question 2 is, what kind of SLA, service level agreement, do you provide today?
So I can't speak for Megaport because I didn't design Megaport. So that's really the sort of question you ask your fabric provider, what subscription? What I know of the guys who designed it and what I've designed is the subscription, it depends on what's being pushed. So obviously if I've got a switch, 40 gig, 32, 40 gig port switch that can take 110 gig ports, I don't have a terabyte of upstream. So generally you'll push what you need to. You can have load balance paths. It really depends on it's like anyone that builds ISPs today. You need to contend your networks, watch that contention, decide on your levels. If it's 52%, add another path. It's very easy. We build everything in port channels, which means like for me to add another 40 gig link is really easy. I actually have even pre-provisioned spare ports to take things up to 320 gig uplinks on a single switch. You know, so I'm happy to talk more about some of the architecture I've designed. That doesn't mean Megaports is anything like ours. They use a different vendor, different technology. It's a philosophy, but the outcome is kind of the same. Now regarding SLAs, I have a philosophy, a little bit of a different philosophy there. I believe elastic fabric should have no SLAs in a way, and I believe you should design your own. If you want to have 2 ports into the elastic fabric in different switches, even different data centers, and you want to run your own VLANs, there's no reason that you can't bring up 2 VLANs via 2 paths, via 2 different elastic fabrics even. Let's say you're in town here and you wanted to use Penn and Megaport. There's no reason if you're on both of them that you can't build your own SLA. I personally think SLAs are garbage, in my country. I believe if you are relying on SLAs, you're planning to fail. You know, what are you going to do? You know, you're down for a day and give me $20 back? You know, I believe that you should be designing around that SLAs shouldn't exist. You know, and I believe this is the same thing. When you're talking at these speeds, get 2 ports. It's so cheap. What are people whinging about? You know, get 2 ports, 2 different bits of equipment, bring up 2 VXCs to 2 different, you want to do 2 different things to Amazon to run your whole company on? Do it. That's what customers in Sydney do. Don't rely on any transmission provider or carrier. You know, maybe you had to because it was $25,000 a part. That was too expensive. There's no excuse now to actually be worrying about other people looking after your SLAs. I didn't realise I was going to be preaching about SLAs today. Yeah.
All right. So thanks to Skeeve for the excellent presentation. And
I'll be outside if you want to chat about it.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions to any of the speakers.